So hello, 10 Ton Hammer. We are here with the one and the only Curt Schilling, Major League MVP pitcher, World Series winner, and expert mover of chairs, as I saw earlier today. That was awesome. Pitched and helped downstairs. So that was very cool. So we're here live at SynCon 2010, and the Syndicate World Conference is a major conference for a video game guild called the Syndicate. It's been in existence 14 and a half years, and I guess, Curt, what led you to become involved with this? What does the Syndicate mean to you?
Well, that first point that you just made, they've been together 14 and a half years, which debunks every myth and every fact people believe about online guilds. They're an exception to the rule, and as such, they could potentially be, and hopefully will potentially be, an enormous asset to 38 Studios as a partner going forward. They have a chance. And we have a chance to make better games with their involvement, and we're pushing every button and exploring every option to have them involved in product development as we move forward.
So there you go. If you show some stability as a guild, maybe you can help test out some awesome products like 38 Studios. So just to start things off, Kingdoms of Amalur is Reckoning. Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning is the first title really talked about in depth by your company. It's slated for 2011. And I know you're, in addition to being a big MMO gamer, you're also a big pen and paper gamer, you're a big strategy gamer. Why did you go with RPG instead of maybe a strategy type game?
Well, it was kind of pretty easy, actually. When we acquired the Big Kids Game Studio, they had been working on their own single-player role-playing game for about 3.5 years. And the single-player role-playing game was always on the roadmap for the Amalur IP. We had envisioned it initially being something that would come afterwards, just because we started out with the MMO, and that's complicated and big enough. When the acquisition happened, we realized that we had technology and development, about 3.5 years of it, that we could tap into, and what we did was basically remove the intellectual property they were working on, take Amalur, and ask Ken Ralston and Mark Nelson to go into the Amalur Bible and look at it and find a place in there that they could find an awesome story to deliver a game on. They did that, and we ended up with Reckoning. So it was a no-brainer in that sense. But the delivery mechanism for the entire product ecosystem has always been centered around multiple products, and this just happened to be kind of a fate thing that worked out for everybody.
And I like the term you coined for that, the immersive online entertainment experience. I've seen that in some of your marketing literature and whatnot. Some players kind of get the feeling that maybe your games are going to be more cinematic than multiplayer-ish. I don't know, could you just kind of talk about the term and what it means to...
So, yeah, I mean, we have had as kind of our marching orders from day one to give our guests the next generation of online entertainment experience, which to us means you shouldn't be required to be sitting in front of your PC to engage the IP. You shouldn't have to be in front of your console to enjoy an experience. That doesn't mean we're making an MMO for the iPhone or the iPad. But what it does mean is whatever device you have in your hand, you can engage our property in some way, in a meaningful way, in a way that's cool. And you look at the WoW Auction House, which is a really cool thing, but taking that a step or two further, trying to make sure that, first of all, you care about it enough to want to be engaged with it, but that it's really platform agnostic from an involvement, because it's a community. You're facilitating people creating massive communities, guilds, big guilds, and you want to allow them to engage and communicate and converse with that wherever they are and whatever they're doing. So. The RPG Reckoning is on the Xbox, the PlayStation, the PC. The MMO is PC based, but there are a lot of other platforms that occupy our daily lives, and they're overshadowing a lot of the use that we used to get out of those platforms. And we need to give you a meaningful reason to want to look at us and experience something that we're doing on the iPad.
Okay, and as part of that platform approach, I guess you might say. Are you open to the idea of DLCs, of episodic kind of content that, like I know Reckoning is going to explore the idea of resurrection and what that means to the world of Amalur when it appears. Could you possibly explore other kind of MMO mechanics, moving forward?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense if there isn't product connectivity, right? I mean, so we're our first goal is to make Reckoning, a 100+ Metacritic game. That's the goal, right?
Nice.
And quickly behind that is that we want that to service the IP. We want that to service Amalur in a way that's meaningful to our guests. So if you're playing Amalur, or if you're playing Reckoning, and so one of the big things for me is fantasy RPG players are going to play Reckoning because it's a great game. MMO players aren't necessarily going to want to play a single-player RPG. But if there's product connectivity, and if there's a tangible result in the MMO startup experience for you because you played Reckoning, that's a good thing. So we're looking for connectivity through all of the products, whether it be comic books on the iPhone, whether it be toys, whether it be the RPG, the MMO, an RTS, or whatever we do. That connectivity is at the heart of everything we're doing.
Okay. And I love the Comic-Con reveal with Todd McFarlane, jumping up on the tabletop and showing us his stuff there. It seemed like a lot of the sizzle in the trailer that was shown revolves around combat, but it is going to be a full-fledged open-world RPG experience with all the the crafting, the good stuff that comes along with that.
Wait, so yes. I mean, the combat, that is where, to coin a phrase, that's where for us Reckoning kicks ass, is in the combat. It is a very heavy, visceral, dark combat, and as we continue to play that out and make that happen in the RPG, Todd's hand becomes heavier and heavier in the product. And that's, if you heard Todd talk at Comic-Con, his focus and emphasis, he didn't talk about art and style and environments. He talked about killing stuff better than anybody's ever killed stuff before. And he stands up at the table, and Todd is very in love with animation, and he understands that you can tell a story through animation, and it's a powerful tool. And when he talks about, when you stab something, you don't just stab it and do this. He's got the big sweeping motions and gestures, and when you see the animations both in Copernicus and in Reckoning, you're going to see Todd's touch, and that's one of the hallmarks of Reckoning, will be that kind of next evolution of combat.
And I love the fact, we talked to a lot of MMO developers, honestly, and that's something that you invented, and other developers kind of picked up on, the idea of the environment as a character, animation as a character, like telling the story. So that's very cool.
It's exciting. Yeah. Again, because you're talking about open world. Mm-hmm. And we could have an open world that was just an open world for open world's sake, or we could create an open world that you actually wanted to go out and look around in. And that's, the open world doesn't become much of a selling point if it's an open world for open world's sake. But if it's an open world you want to run around and go off the beaten path in, and you find out that going off the beaten path is a reward thing. You're seeing things you'd never see before, and you're involved in things you'd never experienced if you hadn't taken the alternative route. That's the reward for an open world game, and that's what made Oblivion so great. And the open-ended gameplay was hundreds and hundreds of hours of gameplay. In Reckoning, we're looking at the same thing. We're taking that Oblivion open world thing, which is, if you do go off the beaten path, there's something out there, and it's probably pretty cool. And at the same time, that visceral, God of War heavy, epic combat, and those two haven't existed in the same game for me, anyway, ever. And that's the exciting part about it.
Okay. And last question. I know you're short on time, and we appreciate you talking.
Well, thank you.
The art style that you're showing off with Reckoning, and we've seen some screenshots and concept art and wallpaper and some really good stuff on the website. Is that the same style you're going to carry through? Like, I know you went about designing it very carefully. So.
Right. Well, so there's going to be connectivity, right? But each game needs to stand on its own legs, and we can't rely on the beautiful art of Reckoning to sell people in Copernicus, and we can't rely, and vice versa. I want it to be an M-rated game without gratuitous sex and violence. So if you're not going to have gratuitous sex and violence, and you're going to make a game M-rated, you've got to do that. Todd is one of the few people in this world that can make something potentially M-rated just through an environment.
Sure.
And that's exciting and tantalizing in and of itself. But Copernicus and that game has got a darker theme, because it's from a period in time well before the MMO, when things were dark and things were evil and mysterious. And the Well of Souls is something that is now a question in the world's mind for the first time. You jump ahead 2,000 years, the world's a very different place. In Amalur is a very different place when the MMO takes place and launches. So, it won't have that overarching dark, theme to it that Reckoning does, for very good reason.
Okay. Well, we can't wait to see it in 2011. This has been Curt Schilling, along with Jeff Wolfsegel here at 10 Ton Hammer. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thanks.